All right. Like I said, we are here today to talk about how you can step into the spotlight to be on the next TEDx stage and how you can navigate that application process. I'm sure many of you have thought about, yes, I would love to be on a TEDx stage. How many of you have thought, yes, I would love to be on a TEDx stage? How many of you know that TEDx stages give a lot of individuals some amazing credibility? Like amazing credibility for one, right? You just get to write it in your bio that you're on a TEDx stage. But did you also know that so many individuals have been found because they go viral from their TEDx talk? And we could probably each name at least 4 people that we have known that have gone viral because of that. That's why I wanted to put this together, because it's not just about landing the stage. Many of you on here are speakers. That's probably why you're here, or you're desiring to do more speaking. As you know, I am a speaker. I pay to play, I speak for free, and I'm paid to speak. I do not think that when I get my talk on the stage that that's where it ends. It never ends there. We go from there to promoting it, to getting people to view it, to utilizing it in our marketing. So as you know, just getting on a TEDx stage isn't the end all be all. It doesn't stop there. Then there's the promotion side of it. So not only do you have to navigate the application, you have to find out how to get on a TEDx stage, then learn what to say when you're on the stage, which is way different than a lot of other stages you've all been on. Then you got to figure out, how do I promote it? So when I met Maija-Liisa Adams, I was like, wow, like, you know how to do a lot of this stuff and I don't. And what do I tell y'all? We stay in our lane. So I am not here to teach you how to do that. Maija-Liisa Adams is my co-host today, and she has all of this knowledge and has done this for years. And I thought, I want to bring another way for my community to be able to gain visibility, because that's what this is about, right? The Leap community is all about gaining visibility so you can be seen and be heard. And that's where it skyrockets your SEO. It's what skyrockets your people knocking on your door, trying to pay you money for you to go fly somewhere to speak. All of this has happened to me, and that's why I'm sharing it with you. My visibility has exploded, and so I use this community as a way for you guys to tap into how you can explode your visibility as well, so that people are knocking down your door, paying you to speak, and you're flying around and doing what you love, right? Because the more you get on a stage and get to speak, the more people hear about you, and the more speaking gigs you get, the more money you make, the more clients you get, the more products you sell, the more on and on and on and on, right? All agree with that? Yes? Okay, good. That's what we're going to talk about today. You are being recorded, because this will be an evergreen workshop that will be available to other individuals that also want to learn how to be able to get on a TEDx stage. Maija-Liisa Adams is the founder and CEO of LiisaSpeaks, an Idaho-based global TEDx talk coaching firm. Over the last 6 years, Adams has helped more than 100 clients understand how to land, nail, and use their TEDx talk to grow their impact and increase their income. As a global keynote speaker, she has addressed over 700,000 individuals in India, Crom Castle, the International Women's Day Conference, and BYU, Idaho, where she serves as an adjunct faculty in business and communication. Before starting her business, Adams was a regional sales manager for a 1.4 billion value global software company. So I would say, Maija-Liisa Adams, you are definitely qualified to be here today to teach us all about the TEDx speaking. And all of you on this call already know me, but I will quickly say my name is Colleen Biggs, and I am a trailblazer. I am a peak performance business coach. I work with individuals and women in a community that want to be seen, be heard, and get more visibility. And they're looking to do that through all the platforms that we offer, as well as scale their businesses so they can expand their influence, attract the right clients, and make more money, right? That's why we're here. Okay, Maija-Liisa, why don't you go ahead and get us rolling?
Thank you so much. It's great to be here with you. I am going to share my screen and talk to you about the power of a TEDx talk. Hopefully I've got my notifications turned off here. Let's start here. So many people want to land a TEDx stage, and it is possible to land one in 2023. And landing a TEDx stage has so much power in it. But in many ways, you're just one talk away from your dream. Now, you might recognize the person, the taller person here, the president, and that's my father with him. And I want to tell you today that sometimes you're just one talk away from your dream becomes a reality. Sometimes it's a dream you might not even know that you had. So my father was a farmer and a rancher and also a businessman. He was at a board of directors meeting. It was an annual meeting and they were talking about the budget and things got a little bit heated. So they broke early for lunch and he spent his lunch hour thinking of a solution. And when he came back, he said, "Do you mind if I take just a moment and share an idea that I have?" And when he did, they were kind of dumbfounded. And they said, "Keith, you're so diplomatic. Both sides are calmed down. Both sides like your idea. You ought to be a diplomat." Somebody else spoke up and said, "You ought to be an ambassador. You ought to be the ambassador to Finland," because they knew that my dad had served a mission in Finland and had married a woman from Finland. And his business was called Finlandia Ranch. Like he knew everything about this country. And yet he's this farm boy, this ranch boy from Idaho, lives very rural. How did he become an ambassador? Because he set his idea out there. He solved a problem and someone else said, "You know, I actually know someone who's the national chair for the party, and I'm going to ask him how you become an ambassador." And it's really from that idea to him becoming an ambassador. You're just one talk away from your dream. Now, while my dad was an ambassador, George and Barbara Bush were the vice president and his wife, and they visited us at the embassy in Finland. And what I found out about Barbara is two things. One, here, I found out she has a sense of humor, and I'll tell you the other thing in just a second. So while she has her arm around a much younger version of me, she's also talking to the Secret Service and saying, "You know, she's really cute and single. You might want to ask her out." And this 20-year-old girl is just like blushing the whole time. What I then found out about her when she became a speaker, I started teaching public speaking at Brigham Young University, Idaho. And I found out that she's on the top 100 list for American rhetoric speeches. She's at Wellesley College, and in the middle of it, she says, "And who knows, somewhere out in this audience may even be someone who will one day follow in my footsteps." At this point, she's the first lady, "and preside over the White House as the president's spouse." She's at an all-women's college, and I wish him well. And I just love the fact that she always had such a sense of humor and in her own right was a great speaker. Now, you probably recognize this person, Brené Brown. Brené has over 60 million views just on the TEDx channel of YouTube. Not to mention having given a TED Talk, and not to mention having her TEDx and TED Talk viewed both on that and being shared all over the world. I think that might be one of the people that Colleen was referring to earlier who's had quite an impact. And she wasn't even looking for it. My dad wasn't looking to become an ambassador. Brené Brown was not becoming to look an ambassador, the ambassador of vulnerability. But in her TED Talk, 2 years later, she said, "I wasn't prepared for the fact that 4 million people at that time were going to watch my talk." She said, "In fact, I had walked into a grocery store and a little child said to her mom, 'That's the vulnerability lady.'" And she was horrified. In fact, Brené Brown was horrified to find out it was going to be recorded at the TEDx Houston event. And she even changed her idea a little bit on the way to the event, thinking, just 600 people are going to see me. It doesn't really matter. So you can tell her heart was not in, "Oh, I'm going to write books and be famous all over the world." She wanted to give. So therefore, this is what my research on shame and guilt has given me. And we never know the power in a TEDx talk. Now, I can't guarantee all of you to get as many views as Brené Brown or as many views as this guy. If you know who this is, put it in the chat for me. And what I love about him is he didn't apply. He wasn't even asked to speak, and someone else was asked to speak on the TEDx Puget Sound stage. This was over a dozen years ago. It was new, getting up and going. and someone else was asked to speak, and they said, well, I'd be happy to speak. However, you really need to hear from Simon. Simon has this fabulous idea. So there are really three ways to get on the TEDx stage. You can apply, you can be nominated by someone else, or a stage will reach out to you. And so someone recommended him, and the stage reached out to him. And this, of course, is, let's see what you put in the chat. Do you know who he is? Of course you do. Simon Sinek, my favorite. Colleen says, yes, absolutely. And you probably could tell me what his message is, just like you could tell me the topic of Brene Brown is vulnerability, or the title of her talk is The Power of Vulnerability, or we've all learned that there's power in being vulnerable. You could probably tell me what Simon Sinek's is. Let's see if someone put that in the chat if they know. Yep, start with why. Exactly. Yep, start with why. And he has in his talk, it's a simple TEDx talk. In fact, this is how I found out about TEDx. My daughter was in debate, and someone her same age said, Mrs. Adams, do you know about the golden circles? And I said, no, Reagan, what are the golden circles? And so he explained the how, the what, and the why of Simon Sinek. And that's when I found out that TEDx was actually a thing. Now, oops, where'd I go here? For the last 20 years, Chris Anderson has been the head of TED, but before him, this was started, TED, by Richard Saul Warman. And for 18 years, he had it. Now, for part of that time, I actually lived in California in the Bay Area, near Monterey, where the TED conference was, but I wasn't aware of it at all. And after 18 years, to talk about you're only one talk away from your dream, Richard said, I'm done. It's run its course. I'm not interested anymore. And Chris Anderson said, oh no, please, let me present to you why I should be the next head of TED. And he did. And I'm so glad he did, because now we all know about TED. We could have lived right in the neighborhood like I did and didn't know about it years ago. But now that he had the genius to put it onto YouTube, where Simon has also 60 million views, like Brene and Sir Ken Robinson and others, we see TED Talks, and we can have our TEDx talk put online. So there's power in a talk. This is me in 2018 as a TEDx organizer for a couple of local events. I was sent to Brooklyn, and this TED Fest for 500 organizers around the world is held annually. It hasn't been the last few years because of COVID, but previously, and it will come back as well. And what we do is the people at TED, the organization, even though it's nonprofit, there is a TED headquarters. It's now in New York. And there's a group that works with TEDx, which TEDx are the independently organized stages around the world. So they gave a YouTube Diamond Award because in 2018, the TEDx channel that Chris Anderson started had 10 million views. Now look below that, you might see the new number. So if you see the new number there on my slide, how many TEDx Talk subscribers are there now? $37.5 million. And probably this week it's gone up a little bit too, because I put this on here like last week. And every time I go, it's going from 35 to 36 million to 37.2 to 37.4. There's power in that visibility. That's, maybe you're saying, I don't want to be seen by that many people, but you kind of want to be seen by that many people. And how do you do that? We all have this desire, I think, to be seen and to be heard, to be visible. But we also have this imposter syndrome, like, is my idea good enough? Or what would I talk about on stage? Whoops, let's go back here. So the very first TEDx event that I went to was for just 100 people. So those people that go to TED Fest, they get trained so that they can open it up to a big audience. Maybe your auditorium has 350 people or 600 or 1,200 people that can be brought in there, or 6,000, some of the bigger stages that have been around for a while. This was just 100 people. And this is a young girl from North Korea who had escaped into South Korea. And she told her story and the impact of how they had to leave the country. And I thought, this is really cool. We have a global speaker here in our backyard in Idaho, kind of that sister city feel to it. I want to do things with TEDx globally. And last year that became a reality for me, as I have now speakers in other countries. But here in my own hometown, this is Carol. And I was at the farmer's market with my husband, and this gregarious woman walked up to me and struck up a conversation. And the four of us sat down and shared some ice cream or something. And then as soon as I got home, there was a ping, and she had friended me on Facebook. And then a few minutes later, she said in a private message, "Oh, that's why I met you, because I've always wanted to give a TEDx talk, and you're a TEDx speaker coach." Carola had applied and was rejected and didn't understand why. And so I worked with her and helped her develop her idea. Now, you might think that I'm going to say she became had a million views or became the vice president of a company or something. Do you know what Carol's was? It gave her the confidence to get her bachelor's degree. She had not gone to school after high school. She had raised a lot of children, and she had gone through a very trying personal experience. And I'm so happy to report that just in April of last year, she got her bachelor's degree. So there's power in a TED Talk, and everybody has something that they want to get out of it, or that sometimes they don't even know what's going to come out of it. All right, I want to have you put in the chat there for a second. What is something that you would like if you were to give a TEDx talk? What do you think you might get out of it? Why would it be something you'd want to do? And it could be for any reason. I'll tell you several more reasons and share some stories, but let's take a minute here. In fact, let me pop out of the share just first. Well, I can still see it. Yes, Julie, make a bigger impact. Absolutely. We have something that we want to share, and it is incumbent upon us if we have something that's going to help change the world, even if that's just a few people, a few hundred, a few thousand, a few 100,000, that we should. Okay, now they're coming in here. I might have to get my glasses on to read them. You're going so fast. I love it. I love it. So make a bigger impact. Credibility, absolutely. Have that TEDx next to your name, as well as impact. Angela, good. Vera says exposure to make a difference. Yeah, we do want to make a difference, don't we? And Dr. Amanda says impact. So that's kind of a common theme, isn't it? And to grow her expert platform. You know, you don't have to be the expert in a topic, but you do need to be an expert. Let's go back to what TED stands for. If you know what TED, T-E-D, what those initials stand for, will you put them in the chat? And I'll look at some of these others coming along. Lindy wants to help others. Renee, hi Renee. She wants to help others through their own journey. I love it. And Mary wants a societal shift in attitude toward bright people. Interesting, great, toward bright people. I love that. And when I look at your profile picture, I think bright as in colorful or bright as in intelligent, probably both. Then Susan says to raise the money consciousness of the world so you experience prosperity. Yes, so important. And Lori helping families get on a firm financial foundation. You guys are on the same page. And so here's two people wanting to talk about money. Does only one of them get on the stage? One of the stages I was working on helping, I think we had, oh gosh, close to a couple hundred people had applied for 12 slots. And 4 of them wanted to speak on happiness. And as the committee, as the TEDx board, the TEDx team, we had to decide, do we even want a talk on happiness? They sound kind of fluffy if you just think, oh, talking about happiness. So we looked at them and we said, okay, who are the 2 strongest candidates? So what you have to realize is there will be people applying on the same stage with your same topic. In fact, I'll pause to say the difference in TED and TEDx is TED's going to happen again in April. It's going to happen now in Vancouver, BC, and it's 4 days. It costs about $20,000 to go to that 4-day conference, and much higher fees too, depending on what else you do. That's the lowest entry fee. There are 4 days with 3 sessions every day and 8 speakers in each session. Now, one of those sessions, all 8 speakers are going to talk on the same topic, like happiness. Probably not going to be the one that they choose, though. Something like artificial intelligence. And so you need to, but a TEDx event is going to have more of a variety show. They're going to have a talk come from science, from the arts, from the business community, a musician, and so forth. So but when you apply, think, oh, there might be 3 or 4 other people talking on the same thing, like finance or happiness. So I need to prepare what's unique from my expertise, so I can be one of 8 talking on the same topic. I hope that makes sense. So do it at the quality of, I'm going to be one of 8 speakers on my topic, but the reality is you're only going to be one speaker. You're going to be the speaker chosen to do that. Okay, I'll come back to see what else is said in the chat here.
What are some other, like, is there any examples you can give of some unique spins on that for, because every single individual out here I know pretty well, and
Yep.
I can see by what they put in the chat
Yeah,
that this is basically what their business is on, what they teach on, what they're passionate about, right? Which obviously Brene Brown got out there and talked about shame and fear and some of the other things that came up because of her research. She's a researcher, and that was what she had discovered. So
exactly.
how would we use what it is that we are already passionate about and what aligns with our business? Because obviously you built your, it's helping catapult your business, having that message out there. How do we do that in a way that's appetizing for the board of people that are reviewing those?
Well, I want to go back to Simon Sinek, and that's a fabulous question. Thank you for stopping me to ask it. And Mary, you're the winner. It's not technology education and design, it's technology entertainment and design, the TED. And thank you all for putting in what your idea is there. And yes, the tagline is ideas we're spreading. So Simon Sinek, his talk was this. He told 3 stories and said the same thing after each story. He's got 60 million views. He's a business person. He's a leadership person. Leadership is his thing. But he challenged our assumption. Instead of saying, tell us what you do and how you do it, give us the secret sauce. His secret sauce was to flip it on the end and say, focus on the why. And he used the example of the Wright brothers and then Martin Luther King and Apple Computer. So the Wright brothers, he told that story because I don't remember, even after hearing Simon Sinek's talk, probably at least 20 times, who this other person was. But he had all the money behind him and all the other smart people around him that could put us into flight. But the day that he found out that the Wright brothers actually flew, he quit because his why was to be famous. Their why, although fame came with it, and maybe there's a little of it, their main why was to get into flight. And they would take 6 sets of spare parts every day and go out and try 6 different times and then try again the next day. So that's an example of why. So all he did was tell 3 stories. And you just take one little idea, something even as simple as literacy can heal. Now, when you're speaking about finance, the 2 of you, I think this came up because of that and me talking about happiness, then you have to also, another huge tip is don't try and be clever. What is it that people are worrying about at 3 a.m.? And what are they worrying about in 2023? And then look at your expertise and say, what do I have to offer? So something that I do in my coaching is I have you go through an exercise to dig down deeper as to what the problem is and what the solution might be or what's behind it. And then also say, the typical way that we look at finance is this, and most people would have you solve it this way, but this is the real solution. That's what you need to do, is distinguish yourself with that. And it may seem hard, and it takes the time to get that wording of that sentence, but it really can be as simple as sharing a story, but you can't just get up and tell a story. You just have to land. So therefore it means this. So therefore this is why it's important. So therefore this is how it can help you. Does that help, Colleen?
Yes, it did. And I know that most of them out here had that exact same question.
Okay,
So
perfect.
that's why I wanted to ask it.
Speaking for the masses there. All right. This happens to be an Osmond. His name is Justin, and he also lives in Utah. And I got to coach Justin. He is the nephew of Donnie and Marie. And I said, Justin, you're a deaf Osmond, but people are going to want to know, are you musical? He said, well, yeah, my mom made sure that I knew how to play the drums and the violin. And then I said, and if you look really closely where he's standing on the right-hand side, I don't know if the share button's in the way or not, but there is his violin. So he ended by playing a little bit of the violin for us. So we also work on your talk, not just landing the stage, but also rocking that talk and having some sort of an impact there. Now, what's come about for him is his dad, Merrill, and he have been on a keynote tour for the last 3 years. Merrill just retired about 3 months ago, I think it is now. And now Justin's going solo, and it's made him a global speaker. Obviously, having the name of Osmond has helped as well, but he is different than most of the Osmonds. There are other Osmonds that are deaf, but he just has this infectious want to help everybody. And he just knows it doesn't matter what mountains you have, you still can do it. And he showed that with playing the violin. Now, this is Luke and April, and they were on the same stage. And sometimes collaborations is what comes out of doing a TEDx talk. So Luke owns a company, it's actually a nonprofit, and it's called, this in the middle here, it's very tiny, but it says Sleep in Heavenly Peace. And his whole idea was the fact that as a scout troop, they built this bed. And he was looking at his kids thinking, I want them to have some sort of a project. And so I'm going to get the materials and have our family build a bed. And the purpose was to give this bed away to somebody in need. This became a nonprofit. It is now worldwide. You can set up a chapter somewhere in Africa, somewhere in Arizona, somewhere, anywhere else. And you build beds then. And he tells this beautiful story about what it felt like to take this bed to this little girl who was 6 and had always slept on a heap of clothing and never had her own bed before. Now, April was on the stage talking about how her 3 children, there were 3 boys under 11, were addicted to their cell phones. And she found out that she and her husband were too. And they weren't having the family time. They weren't having the creativity. So her idea was about how they purged that and added it back in and so forth. So being social is a very important thing for her. And she was so taken by Luke's message that they started a conversation, and she now works for him as his social media manager. There's something that comes out of even the fact of just getting on that red dot, the fact that you share the message, and the fact that you kind of become a family with those 8 or 10 or 16 or 20 speakers that are there. That was the power for them as well. Now, even during COVID, and still a little bit now, sometimes the stage had to be virtual. And that was the case with Janet, who spoke in Boston. And Janet is a caregiver. Her idea came about from the fact that her spouse got cancer. And in corporate America, you don't like to talk about how you need to help care for a spouse or a child that's sick, or for your parents that are sick. And so she has been working in corporate America to have these conversations about, we have this caregiver's dilemma. We need to be there in these times of crisis, but corporations need to do this. So that she was actually featured on TED, because every day, if you subscribe, of all the TEDx talks that are uploaded every day, they put someone up there, and she was one of those featured. Now, this is Kara, and Kara has actually given 2 TEDx talks. So she spoke about how her boys were gaming and how she thought they were going to become degenerates. But her idea was the fact that instead of being critical about the fact that they were on their games, and I was saying it's time to come and eat, once I kicked out their the plug, so they were unplugged, and they had to have a conversation with their mom and say, Mom, when you do that, we're in a tournament, we get penalized. And so she said, I need to get curious. So she says, be more curious with your kids instead of critical, and you'll find the why for why they do it. And it can be amazing. I'm going to share what she said here.
Hi, I'm Kara Lane, and my life is forever changed. I am so glad I met Maija-Liisa, and here's why. Before I met Maija-Liisa, I was a speaker, just doing anything to get a gig. Then I auditioned and got on the TEDx stage, and it changed my life. Maija-Liisa was my speaking coach, and let me tell you what she did for me. First of all, she can ask the right questions to help you get to the heart of your issue. She makes sure that your voice is never lost. So she individualizes and strategizes who you are. As a result of being on the TEDx stage, my life has changed. I'm an international consultant. Even post-COVID, I've been able to go overseas and speak and train. I am so excited because I'm now credible with young people. They actually know what a TED Talk is, and they're in awe that I did one. I put this in my signature line for every email that I'm a TEDx speaker. And most of all, I'm excited to tell you that TED actually paid me. You heard me right. They liked the TED Talk so much that Maija-Liisa helped coach me in, that they turned it into an article, and I got a check in the mail. I feel credible on all levels because of my TEDx talk and Maija-Liisa as my coach. I am thrilled to still know her to this day and recommend her highly. So this is well worth the effort, the time, the energy. Get coaching with Maija-Liisa.
Okay. Hopefully the next one won't start playing yet here, but that's Kara. She's gone on to give a second one. Whoops, let's go back here and let's talk about Tony here. Tony is from Chicago and she talks about diversity in the workplace. And even though the slide says 287,000, I did check and she's over 350,000 just in the last year. And she gave this talk, I think 5 years ago. So it continues to grow. So she's just very eloquent in how she does this. She's very willing to work with corporate America. And so whatever her expertise is, that's what she talks about. Now, this is Lacey. And if you look really closely at Lacey, what she's wearing, I want to point that out. Yes, she has over 500,000 views as well. And she has a bright fuchsia jacket on. Now, let me tell you the story. I went to the dress rehearsal for her, and she had a beautiful black turtleneck on and beautiful earrings like she does here. But notice that this particular stage has black curtains. And so she was just a bobbing head. And so I said, Lacey, you've got to wear something else tomorrow when you give your TEDx talk. You look great in that, but you're just going to be invisible. And so she shocked me when she came in such a bright color. But what shocked me even more is if you look closely, there's nothing on underneath that blazer. If you look even closer, she has 2 scars. You see, Lacey had implants and she got sick. She almost died from them. So she has given a TEDx talk about implants and the dangers. So she had explant surgery and she also had a double mastectomy because her mother, her aunt, and a grandmother have all died of breast cancer. So she now, when she speaks, this is her trademark. As soon as she's off the stage, she puts another shirt on underneath. But it was just a really cool experience to see how that kind of became her brand. All right. Any questions? Again, right here at this point, I've got a few more that I want to tell you about, and then we'll open it up for some other questions. But if you have one, I can notice here in the chat. Okay, good. Yeah, meeting other people. All right, this is Bill, and Bill was a stealth bomber pilot. And he's the type of person who said, I don't care if there are 2,000 people wanting to be the stealth bomber pilot, and there's only one position, I'm going to be it. Because he's always striving to be the best. And that's what he talked about, wearing his bomber pilot there. And he talked about how in the military, you learn to be the best by, of course, you're preparing and then you execute the mission. But this is the key. After that, you stop and have an immediate debriefing, and you do it in a way that there's no blame. So if the plane coming to refuel you is just 1 degree off, you say the plane was 1 degree off. You don't say Bill was 1 degree off. I'm paying any blame. But anyway, it's you've always got to take the debrief. Like after this, I'll do a debrief personally, and I can do a debrief with Colleen and say, oh, we could have done this differently, or this went well. He also talks about wanting to start a pizza place and be the best at that. And he has actually done that here locally. He's a local speaker. He's one of the first ones that I helped, in fact. And he now has that pizza place. And it was motivated by when he was in Afghanistan, the way that they do them there. And he's now, I think in one competition, he's like number 2 in that competition. So I'm sure he'll keep striving to be the best. He has a lot of views, and it was picked up by the military. So you never know who's going to really benefit from this. Okay, and this is Tasha. So I want to go back to the question that Colleen asked. And most of you put in something about your idea that would be something that you do. It's your gig, that's your business, that's your expertise. And Tasha is a businesswoman, but she didn't speak about business. There are 2 markers here with 2 different counters. Let me explain that first, and then I'll explain the title. So down in the bottom on the right, it says TEDx 566,000. So on the TEDx YouTube channel, she has that many, or she did a week ago. And now on the TED channel, she was bumped up to TED, and there are 2 different counters. So she actually has over 1 million views. Now, Tasha talked about her daughter's OCD. She did not talk about business. And she told a very powerful story that said, my daughter was working first she started out by showing pictures of nicely lined up everything and saying, you think that's OCD, but I'm here to tell you that's not. OCD is a monster. My daughter has OCD. She was diagnosed at 8, and when she would work at this, an example is she worked at this ice cream parlor, and when she came home this one night, she had gone over some speed bumps, and it was dark. And by the time she got home about 10 minutes later, her OCD had kicked in so high that she said, "Mom, Dad, I've got to go back and count the bodies. I know I ran over people on the way home." And now the power of this starving the monster comes in of how do you react? At this point, when this happened, she was actually engaged, and her fiance tried to just keep her from going. And that doesn't work with OCD. And so they talk about what they had come up from. They decided as a family to be very open about it. Everybody in the neighborhood and the family at church, at school knew their daughter had OCD because they wanted to understand this and help her the most. So they learned what you can do to be with them for 5 or 10 more minutes to calm them. Tasha has so many views because she also did something brilliant that I recommend my TEDx speakers do, and that is get into Facebook groups or interact with people who this topic is near and dear to. Since she's not the one with OCD, she went and said, "This is what I'm going to talk about. Am I representing it correctly? Is there anything else you'd want me to say?" So they were invested in what she had to say. She gets so many emails, she can hardly keep up with it. Now, there's power in giving a TEDx talk. One, just talking about this subject and helping so many people out there, truly. But what happened to her personally is pretty cool too, business-wise. So she was at a trade show for her own company. She met a woman who was very interested in what she was doing and thought it would be a good fit for this new company. And she said, "Come over and talk to our president." She said, "I can't, I got to keep my own trade show booth going." And so the woman looked Tasha up by simply typing in TED or Tasha Johansson, and it came up with a TEDx talk. So from the time she left the booth to going over to talk to the president of the company, she's listening to this articulate woman who she had in person and can share it with him. She became a vice president for that company, totally unsolicited, because it's searchable. And there is power in giving a TEDx talk. And this is Anne. Anne is a body language expert, and she wanted to share her idea. And it's basically that, we all have cell phones, and cell phones need to have update. It's the same thing with our mindset, with our body language, right? And taught ways to do that. And she wanted to have an impact. And she has over 1.8 million views. And she got those 6 years ago, but it continues. Like 6 years ago, I think she went up kind of quickly. And so you need to also work with YouTube so that you get referred and mentioned. And then here's a tip that you do also as you talk about it. So she gives body language and other types of mentoring sessions every day, every week. And so she'll now, not only as a plug, but literally for the benefit of them to have another resource, she'll say, "And in my TEDx talk, you could learn this." And so then they go and watch it and so forth. So we talk about different ways that you can get views. All right, so what a TEDx is, what a TED Talk or a TEDx talk. TED is the big one once a year. And let me stop here and say, let's say, I don't know how long ago it was, but 5 years ago when I started getting, 6 years ago, involved in this, there were 300 places around the world that had a TEDx stage. And what it is you don't get up and just tell a story. You have to have an idea wrapped around that story that you can put into action. You don't just get up and share an issue. You can raise that issue, but then you've got to share the idea that you think that helps or that you think might help, and that could be put into action. Put a guess in the chat how many TEDx stages you think there are around the world in 2023. Any idea? So there were 300 6 years ago when I started. 600, okay. It's a little more than that. 1,500. Not as many as 25,000, but there are 900 plus, 900 plus. So Linda, you're closer. There are about 4,400 stages right now. Yeah, Angie, you're really close with there. Good job. Good to see you, Angie. So there are over 4,000 stages. I think the last count I heard was 4,400. So there are a lot of stages you can speak on. Now, not all stages are created alike. Some of them have been doing this for over a dozen years. Like TEDx Sydney is like a huge stage, like really well-groomed, really, really highly sought after. TEDx Amsterdam. There are a lot in the United States as well, of course, and most people from outside the United States want to come and speak here. And then most people think, well, if I get on a TEDx stage, then TED will see me like they did Simon Sinek and Brene Brown. And that may happen because remember, there's 3 ways you apply: you're nominated, or someone reaches out to you. And the main thing is have an idea, even if it's a small idea, even if it's an idea that's been heard before, but you're going to bring it with your vantage point, with your fresh perspective, with this little extra added aha. This is most of the solution people do, but now if they do this, that's the real solution to do. Or this is what we did before COVID. Now we do this in COVID. Like I was just talking this morning with a speaker, and she said, I gave out 2 ideas to my community of 1,200 people, and I know more about idea 1, but they 2 to 1 were more interested in idea number 2. And I said, well, look at what it is. You're talking about the great job resignation. And that's what's important to them right now. Jobs have changed since 2020. So a community is always looking. A TEDx stage is awarded to a community or a university or a business to put on an event under the licenses of TED. And there's power in doing that. And you can even speak on a very small one and still get lots of views. You can speak on a really big one and not do really well. So what's first here? You have to know your audience. You have to know what TEDx stages are looking for and what other talks have been talked about, so that you can say, what's different about mine? So the TED conference was once a year, come and be an expert in technology, entertainment, and design, and tell us. And we're not going to let you have 45 minutes in like a normal conference, a keynote speaker. We're going to give you 18 minutes because we only want you to focus on what's new this year, what you have to add to the conversation. You're not going to give a big presentation. It's not going to be a formal speech. It is a talk. It is a conversation. You're up there sharing, hey, and when you do this, this helps, or this is what worked for me. So there are people who will have talked about your idea, but just be different, be unique, be relevant. Like Simon Sinek, challenge what we think. Don't focus on just the what and the how, focus on the why. So what if your idea is taken? It probably is. So there are different TEDx stages by city, by state, by country, and showcase a different perspective and your own personal story with that. And also what we do in coaching is we drill down deeper. We go down, we go wide, and we create a different angle of looking at it. And so how do you start? You begin with the end in mind. It's interesting. We start with the idea in the group coaching, and then we look for stages and so forth. But as we get to like even title, we've got to be thinking with the end in mind, like who's going to be searching on YouTube for what I'm doing? And that title is so important to that. Title is one of the last things that you write, but you got to do it before you talk and put it out there, because that's what people are searching for. That's why they come to the local program, and that's why they click on you on YouTube. So research your talk, research the stages, research the TEDx rules, create a signature title, talk, and concept. And you can apply to multiple stages. So go out and target several of them. Just every day, put out a new application somewhere and just get those submitted. But I'm going to tell you this, 90% of people who apply are rejected. Do you know why? If you know why, put it in the chat. It might be a hard one it might be too simple. And the fact is, you know how sometimes you apply to something, you apply for a credit card, you apply for a job, you apply for everything else, and you go through it very quickly and you don't really look at the question and find out what they're asking. Sometimes you got to realize these are volunteers putting it together. And there are just a few things they all want to know, but they say it differently. What's your idea? What will my audience take away? Who are you? And why should we listen to your idea? But they're going to ask it different ways. In fact, they might say 3 things in one sentence. I had someone applying and they needed to do a video. Like you write, there were only 2 questions. Tell us about your idea. And they had a couple of requirements, and then do this with the video. And they said, review them. And I said, and this guy was in the UK, and I said, wait, you didn't do this part of it. Oh, I missed that. Like, yeah, go back and redo it before you answer all 3 parts for the video, answer all 3 parts for the question. So 90% of us are rejected because we don't answer the questions the way that they're written. And we assume they're all going to be the same. Yeah, they want to know the same things, but they all say it differently. So make sure that you're putting those applications in with your best. What if you are rejected? Congratulations, you took your first step. So now get some expert advice on why you were rejected, and then get better examples and keep going. What if you're accepted? Congratulations, practice your TEDx talk. You know, practicing is so important. When I went to speak in Cancun just 2 weeks ago, I was a little unprepared. It was just 4 minutes. No, that's not such thing as just a 4-minute. In fact, if you want me to talk for 45 minutes like today, I can just talk off the cuff. But if I want to talk for 4 minutes, I've got to get all this stuff out of here. And nothing takes the place of saying it out loud and practicing it alone, recording it, watching yourself, having someone else listen to it, start testing it with your market. And you want to do that, you got to practice your TEDx and get feedback from your professionals. And that starts kind of a promotion and a marketing. Like Tasha, people were interested in what she was going to say about OCD. So they were tuning in, they were sharing it. What's the process? Visualize it. Look at your big idea. You got about 10 minutes to talk about it here. Go through the application. Think of your title as not really clickbait or mind reading, but you do know what they're searching for. And this is Austin. Just went and saw him in person in Bountiful, February 4th. This is Veronica. She was just on the TEDx stage in Florida. And I'm going to skip that one. You heard one of them already. And then this is Cindy. She was in California in December. And this is Brigitte. She's from Germany and she lives in the US. She spoke to a sold out group in Frankfurt. And I just pulled this off because just a couple of weeks ago, she happened to put something nice here. She said the experience, which applies to you and to me. The experience to speak to a sold out audience of over 400 at TEDx Frankfurt in Germany was absolutely breathtaking. Thank you, Maija-Liisa, for guiding me through the process. An experience that has positively impacted not just me. And whoops, that's okay. Well, there's others, someone from Australia, someone else from Germany. But I want to end by talking about Jacqueline. I'm so glad she got on the stage and she spoke the first Saturday in March of 2020. What was happening in 2020 of March? Yeah, COVID. And the next week, TEDx stages were shut down. This particular stage has not even come back up yet, post-COVID. And the other reason I'm so happy that she spoke is after she spoke, she passed away 13 months later. Don't wait. Give your TEDx talk today. Share your message. You think, I'm not ready. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I'm not clear on the message. Well, let's get some help. Let's help you figure it out because we're waiting for your message. And this is another picture of her showing the date with it all. And this is me. I'll end by showing you, this is me speaking to 500,000 people in India with that similar message.
After my client spoke on a TEDx stage, she died 13 months later. Her words live on. You are just one talk away from your dream. You are just one book away from your dream. Share your words today because time is not promised. Write your book. Give your talk. Now is the time to share with others because we are one.
Okay. So there is power in a TEDx talk.
After my clients.
Trying to get to the next one here. So Colleen, I want to turn it back to you to see what questions we might have and what you might want to talk about while I get us out of here.
So there is a question that came up in the chat, and some people had some questions and asked if they weren't following the slides and didn't have them all written down. And so I would love to be able to share this PowerPoint slide afterwards in the recording, and I'll just send it in an email to everyone who was registered. But Nicole had asked the question, if you were going to cover the top 10 actions you need to take to get your moment on the TEDx stage. I know we've covered some of those actions already.
I've weaved several of them in. I have something that we're going to give you, which are the top 10 tips that kind of speaker coaches looking for it in there. And I'm going to, part of it is being regional, thinking, getting in the head of the organizer. And I want to end by saying, The most powerful one is come and give the talk that only you can give. Don't be thrown off by the fact that others have had your topic. Things happen every year, every month in your topic. New things are developed, they're happening. So come and give the talk that only you can give. And do you want me to put that back up, or do you want to just kind of talk from?
No, this is fine. We can talk from that. So we're at the 52-minute mark, from our time of starting. And as I promised all of you, today we're educating. So I will follow up with the PowerPoint, I will follow up with the recording, and I will follow up with the tips, so that we have that. If you wanted to, you can put the slides back up if you want, Maija-Liisa, that's really up to you. But I'm everyone here that knows me, I'm the worst at PowerPoint, following PowerPoint slides, hated it in corporate America as well, because I never follow what the slide says. So that's why I love TEDx talks, because there's usually one or two photos that go up, but it's not like following a PowerPoint, for everything they're saying. Here's what I can tell you. My goal and Maija-Liisa's goal today was to educate you, to give you another visibility opportunity to think about today. It's not to sell to you, but that doesn't mean that there aren't, thanks for the 10 tips. That doesn't mean there aren't opportunities that you can take advantage of post this call today. And I wanted to make sure that you all understood that there are opportunities that you can get into. And I've worked something out with Maija-Liisa for my group so that you guys have an opportunity to work with her if you would like. Would anyone be interested in hearing what that looks like? Okay, let me just share it with you. She works with very small groups, and those small groups are no more than 12 people. She has an 8-week program that she will take you through, and this 8-week program is really going to take you through checklists that she'll provide with you. Every week, you're going to be taking action. This is something you have to desire to serve and be the type of individual that is going to be committed to this. This program will not work for you if you just want to attend it for 8 weeks, but you're not going to take any of the actions. I'm just going to be straight up with all of you. That's how it works, right? Because I had a lot of women attend my government's contracts and do nothing with it. They just listened, but they never actually took the information and applied it. So if speaking on a TEDx stage or getting more visibility in your speaking is in your goals on your vision board for this year, and you have just been manifesting the opportunity to work with someone, we've put together a small group of only 12 women, and that it normally is 3,500, but I've asked Maija-Liisa if she could reduce it because we're putting together the group. It's a $2,500 cost for 8 weeks. And I think you guys can see what happens with her clients after what we saw today, and the closer that they get to stages and when they get on stages. And a lot of those women, I had never heard of their names before. How many of you guys have never heard of them before? So you don't have to be known like an Osmond to get your TEDx talk to be seen out there, to get hundreds of thousands or millions of views, really. And I loved that there were so many subjects that women talked about that are relevant to today. I wrote that down. You need to make sure that you are talking about subjects that are relevant today. How do you weave that problem in the solution into what's relevant today? Don't forget to download the 10 tips that she put in the chat. But I'm going to ask Maija-Liisa, this is not something where she's going to accept all of you, by the way. I'm sorry, but there is an application process. So she wants to work with individuals that want to do this, that have some speaking, that have some experience, that is going to be able to move through this quickly in an 8-week process. So she needs to have a conversation with you for you to be able to be part of this. So if you're interested, she's going to drop that link. All you have to do is set up a time with her over the next 72 hours to have a conversation with her and let her know you're interested. She will go over the questions of the application to let you know if this program is right for you. And those are for the women that are wanting to commit to do this, okay? I never like to leave people hanging. because you can get the information and walk away, and now you know a little bit more than you did before you attended today. But if you're really interested and wanting to have a conversation with Maija-Liisa to see what does that look like for you, and tell her what your goals are and what your experience is, and if you think this is the right path for you, she's going to let you know. And I can't think of a better person to work with than Maija-Liisa. I mean, she just has a heart of gold, y'all. Can't you tell? And she's just the sweetest thing ever. So that's your opportunity if any of you are interested. And again, we will be reaching out to you, sending you a follow-up from today over the next couple of days. So you'll have the PowerPoints, you'll have all that information. You can go start applying. Like, I didn't even know you could apply on all different stages over and over and over again. That's huge. So that was a big piece of today. And then we'll also have this as an evergreen, ongoing workshop that, you know, people can access in the future. And thank you, Maija-Liisa, for putting your link in the chat and your gift in the chat. Any questions of anyone that would like to ask before we end today?
Angela, I'm glad you found it informative. Linda, thanks for the wow and the powerful. I'm glad you got things out of it, Vera. Yeah,
Okay.
India was a pretty incredible experience. That's for sure.
Did you guys see that? I can't believe how many people were there. That is fantastic. That was fabulous. So again, I think that this was just, I'm so thankful for you, Maija-Liisa. Thank you for coming here and presenting this to my community. And thank you all for attending. And I'm excited because I want to be on a TEDx stage. So just like a lot of you, I have big dreams and visions, and that doesn't mean that you can't get on a TEDx stage, right? We all
Let
can.
me ask this. Is there ever an opportunity for two people to do a TEDx talk together?
Yes, there is. I'm working with a pair right now, and I've already put another pair on before.
Well, I'm just thinking, Colleen.
That could be really awesome. 6 foot, 5 foot. I mean, that's like the best pair
Well, they
on a
used-
stage.
years ago called it Mutt and Jeff, right?
Yeah.
I
One
have
more
a-
question and then we have to roll. Go ahead, Vera.
I was trying to download the 10 things and save it, but it's not letting me do that.
Let me check on the, let me give you a different link here maybe.
Get my free TEDx tips.
And okay.
Yeah, it opened it up, but I can't save it or download it.
I can. It's working okay. Mine came up and it popped right in, and I'm
Oh.
able to download it real quick. So
Yeah.
I'll put it one more way in the chat, like that you're already there, and see if that works for you, Vera.
Okay, thank